Good evening, everyone. My name is Virginia Harger. I'm the chairperson of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is Wednesday, April 20th, 2022, and the special meeting of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission being conducted via Zoom and in person at the City Hall Auditorium is hereby called to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll start off with a roll call of the commission. Please verbally indicate you are present when your name is called. Commissioner Parkins?
Present.
Commissioner Laskos?
Present.
Commissioner Ticky? Alternate Commissioner Onofrio?
Present.
Myself, Commissioner Harger. From staff, Mr. Rossetti, our administrator. Mr. Panico, our consultant.
Present.
Ms. Renassos, our recording secretary.
Present.
And Ms. Charbonneau, our stenographer.
Present.
Okay, and for the record, both Commissioners Kelly and Motto were unavailable for this evening's meeting, as well as alternate Commissioner Usel, and Mr. Nappi has been excused from this evening's meeting. Is Commissioner Ticky up on part of the Zoom yet? Okay. Okay, for the record, Commissioner Tiggy, please indicate your presence.
Present.
Thank you very much. Couple points before continuing with this evening's agenda. Mr. Rossetti will act as a Zoom meeting host, and while commissioners will be able to make comments throughout the meeting, the chair asks that you please identify yourself and wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking to make sure we're not all speaking over each other and to make sure our recording secretary is clear as to who is speaking. This evening, we have two public hearings, and I would like to share the protocol for each. First, Mr. Rossetti will indicate if any written comments were received from members of the public no later than 24 hours before the start of this evening's meeting. If written comments were received, they will be read into the record. Two, the applicant and/or his associates will make their presentation. Third, the commission can ask questions during the presentation or at its conclusion. Next, the applicant and/or associates can answer the commission's questions at the time they are presented or at the conclusion of the presentation. Next, the public will then be recognized to comment on the application. Next, the applicant's attorney and/or associates will be given the opportunity to address any comments or questions from the public after the last person from the public has been given the opportunity to speak. Next, if the commission feels further information is needed from the applicant, the chair will ask for a motion to continue the public hearing. The public hearing remains open. The commission is not allowed to make any public comment, discuss any part of the applicant's and/or his associate's presentation, or receive any additional information from anyone. Finally, if the commission feels the applicant and/or his associates have answered all questions and they have addressed all concerns from the commission and/or public, the chair will be asked for a motion to close the public hearing. Staff will then schedule a discussion about the application at an upcoming commission meeting, during which time the commission will be asked by the chair on how it wants to proceed. I'd also like to share the guidelines for members of the public who choose to speak at the point in the public hearing when the chair calls for public comment, especially for those who have never attended a public hearing. First, please, if you are participating by Zoom, please use Zoom's raise your hand feature to identify yourself as a member of the public who wishes to speak. After you are identified by Mr. Rossetti, please state and spell your name and state your address to assist recording secretary and stenographer when doing the minutes and transcripts of the meeting. If you are present in the auditorium and you wish to speak at the time that the public hearing is called as part of the agenda, please come up to the podium and sign in, and then we will call your name. And as soon as I finish this, we're going to go into the public hearing for application 2204, which is the text change for farm stands. And I'll put a sign-up sheet on the table over there for people to sign in. And if you want anyone here in the auditorium, if you're interested, then you can come up and sign in at that, starting now. This is for 20th, right?
Yes.
Here's your red pen. Okay. All right. So during the public portion, if you're going to make comments, please present your comments and questions to the chair and to the chair only, not to the applicant and or his associates. Comments from the public should address specific criteria of the zoning regulations, the merits of the application, and be new information, not a repeat of comments previously presented. Members of the public are expected to practice appropriate etiquette by being quiet, observant, and respectful. Disruptive attendees may be removed from participating. The legal notice for our first public hearing is as, well, we're continuing it, so there is not a legal notice that had to be put in, but we're going to continue the public hearing for application 2204. Public hearing for this particular application opened on March 29th, 2022, when the proposal was presented by the applicants and its attorney. There were questions from the commission regarding type, size, and nature of the operation, what would be produced on site versus what would be brought in, building size, location on site, and parking to be provided. Posted on the city's website is the application and the proposed amendment change for Schedule A and Section 33.7 of the zoning regulations. Mr. Rosetti, were any other reports, materials, or correspondence received within the time period for this application that need to be acknowledged for the record?
Yes. There's a large petition dropped off yesterday, which prior to the public portion, I will read into the record.
Okay. All right, that's it? Okay, so is the applicant or his representative for application 2204 available? And I'll just read off the agenda. This is the continuation of application 2204, Fred Monahan, for text changes, Schedule A, line 10A, to permit farm stands in a greater capacity on farms in R1 and R1A zones. Okay, the applicant's representative.
Good evening, everyone. I'm attorney Stephen Bellis, and I represent the applicant. My address, I live in Shelton, and my work address is at the Pellegrino Law Firm at 475 Whitney Avenue, New Haven, Connecticut. I've been a resident of Shelton for, 37 plus years. So after we had our initial meeting, I did listen to what the board commissioners and Mr. Panico had mentioned, and I looked up what the term agriculture, if it was defined in the Connecticut general statutes, and it is a defined term, and I'll get to that in a minute. I also looked at our plan of conservation and development, which states that we should try to encourage our agricultural and farmlands. That was one of the goals in the plan of conservation and development. And then, of course, in our zoning regulations themselves, there's different statutes that relate to farmland. I also found from the state of Connecticut the guide for Connecticut municipalities for planning for agriculture. It's the 2020 edition. It's a publication for the made by the Connecticut Department of Agriculture, and it's a rather lengthy document. But on pages 59 to 64, they talked about the need for having farm structures on farms that helps allow the farmers to sell their products It allows people to come to the properties and see what farms do. It keeps agriculture local. And I used some of those suggestions from that guidelines, the state ag guidelines. And what I ended up doing was what you had asked me to do, is to put on Schedule A simply under line 10A. I'm hearing some feedback. I don't know if someone's not muted. Are you hearing it too or no?
No, I don't.
On line 10A, I simply have a building for retail sales on a farm of 10 acres or greater. And then I added as provided in section 33.7. And 33.7 is our site plan regulations. So what I did was I took section 33 and added a 0.7 and called it farm structure. This is a new.
Attorney Bellis, can I just ask, the resources that you use, the state statutes, the POCD, we know, we have certainly that on file, but the state statute that you referred to in the guide for Connecticut municipalities, are those going to be submitted to the commission for its review?
I certainly could do that. The Connecticut General Statute, I think it's section 1-1Q is a definition for agriculture. And the guide, I have it. I can email it to Alex and Mr. Panico.
Yes, if you could do that, thank you. And specifically in the state statute, what language you were including?
Yeah, okay. So when I get to it, I'll point that out. Thank you. So what I did is I found, I took the site plan statute, regulation, I apologize, which is section 33, and I added a 0.7. I think we left off with 0.6. So I put that the applications for a farm structure shall conform to the following standards. And I use the word farm structure because that's what they used in the Connecticut agriculture guide. They use the word farm structure, so it has a definition. So we
Wait a minute. But what is the definition according to the state statute for farm structure?
Not state statute. It's made reference to in the Connecticut Department of Agriculture.
All right, and how do
that one's not state? That's not state statute.
Right, but how do they define it? I understand.
So for instance, they talk about allowing. Hold on a second. It says accommodating.
I'm looking to
Don't
see
hear
if it
anyone
says,
talking. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble hearing.
I'm just wondering if it says specifically a farm structure is a building that, whatever.
No, the farm structure is the word that they use in the agricultural regulations, and then they start talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the term I used, farm structure. So in this regulation that I created, the farm structure has to conform to the, and then I created the standards. So first one would be location. It would have to be on a street that has to have 100 feet frontage, which is not unusual, which is probably the same or similar to what we have in an R1 district anyway. On the next one, I made 0.7.2 is the size. There's no limitation other than coverage now in our R1 zone. I think it's 25%. So you can build large structures in an R1 zone. So this would be, as we all know, would only be applicable to a piece of property that has 10 acres or more. So instead of making the structure be 25% of the gross area, I limited it very much so to only 6,000 square feet of the gross building area. So it's much, and what I'm trying to say is I live on an R1 zone and I have a house that's 6,000 square feet. This would be a structure that would be on 10 acres and would be 6,000 square feet. So I hope obviously, I didn't tie it to the coverage area because the building would be too large. So that's why that limitation is put there. The next one were hours of operation. I think
Wait,
that it should,
Mr. Attorney Bellis, again, when you're saying for size under .2, the structure shall not exceed 6,000 square feet of gross building area, but you're not including anything in there that says of the entire property on which it's to be positioned. Why wouldn't you include that kind of the language in there?
well, I can do it, Commissioner, but this only applies under the new 10A for a farm that is 10 acres or greater, right? So if you had a 5-acre farm, you couldn't use this particular site plan section. So on the whole, on the 10 acres, 15 acres, 20 acres, any of those, it would be limited to 6,000 square feet.
How does it say, where does it say that?
Mr. Panico just asked, where does it say
I'm
that?
just curious, where does it say
It
that?
says the structure shall not exceed 6,000 square feet of gross building area.
So maybe you got 2 structures. As you most likely would have on a farm.
You're not
Farms-
limiting it.
Yeah, yeah, we could limit it to 1 building, I suppose. I understand.
No,
the
I
purpose.
just, I don't want you conflicting with your other farm operations.
Well, that's why I started by saying the farm structure. There may be other farm structures. I am well aware of that.
There's confusion that's got to be ironed out.
Okay, I understand the confusion. I don't think that's I think that's an easy fix. Hours of operation, I think that should be included so people, know what time these places are open. I had put in there 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
How did you come up with that time frame?
I thought that if people were going to visit a farm in the summertime, that it would not be appropriate to do it after dark.
Is this considered to be, or what you're proposing, going to be a seasonal operation?
No, it would be year round.
9 o'clock, it's dark year round.
Yeah, starting
You
at
don't
5
really,
o'clock.
you don't really mean shall be open.
Could
What
be,
you mean
yeah.
is no longer than those hours, right?
That is correct.
So you need to clarify that.
Yeah. And if the commission has suggestions, this is not gospel. I'm open to suggestions. I thought that was an appropriate time. I didn't want this to be open 11 or 12 or anything like that.
Right, but with all due respect, Attorney Bellis, we're not the ones that are applying for this. We're not the applicant. So while you are open to suggestions, it's not our place to really make those suggestions. Your application needs to come in saying, we want a text change and we want it to say this, be this. And that's what the point that we decide on. So I don't ever remember us really having give and takes for text changes to a great extent. So just keep that in mind. At least that's
And
okay.
The way I look at it, Commissioner, is that you're acting now in your legislative capacity because it's a change in a zone regulation,
Right.
as opposed to acting administratively for a site plan or special regulation. So that's why I thought it would be, your role is different than normally.
Steve, as long as we've interrupted you,
You can interrupt me, I don't mind.
for your information, it's not really section 33. Section 33 is special exceptions. 31, if I recall right, is site plans.
Okay, we can check. Yeah, my book had it as 33, Tony.
Okay, no, it's 31. It's 33 is special exceptions. You may have a very, very old one, Steve.
Never know, I am very, very old, Tony.
Wait a minute, watch out.
I did put exterior lighting, that there should be no glare on across property lines, the kind of lights that we have for that, so that would not affect any neighbors having any kind of lighting issues.
Are you putting that in the category of downlighting?
Yes.
Okay.
Parking, On this, I put it as 1 space per 200 feet of gross area of the structure. I guess there was a comment last time that they felt that there was too much parking. So instead of 150 feet, I changed it to 200 feet based on the comments that I heard. I
Steve,
did
you
put
really
it,
think grass works in seasonal change?
I put grass or gravel.
Well, but you have an operation that potentially is year round, so you're going to have those muddy spring and fall times. Do you really don't you think it should at least be gravel?
But yeah, it could be what I was trying to avoid, Tony, was the paving.
Right, no, we realize that, but if you were not operating year round, then that would probably be possible. But operating year round, you get that springtime when the ground is frozen, it begins to thaw, and you.
That's a good point. Yeah,
So,
I do know they have, and what I was really thinking of, you know how they use the fire trucks can drive over it, where you have some of those grids, and then they
you
have
do
gravel.
that. Sure, if you want to do that, that's a form of stabilization.
Yeah, but
That's
I
a
thought,
possible alternative.
that's what I had in mind, but maybe I wasn't clear.
Okay.
Why, Attorney Bellis, why would a paving not be something you'd like to pursue?
Trying to keep it more in a farm, make a farm environment, so it didn't look like a store with paved parking. That was the only reason.
Right,
There's
so
nothing
to
else.
you're talking about keeping it in a more rustic kind of appearance?
Yeah.
Okay.
How would you delineate your parking spaces?
I'm not sure what you mean by delineate. Calculate?
Yeah, I mean, how would you delineate it on the ground, on grass?
Well, I think I think that you'd have an area based on what a standard parking space is. A standard parking space is generally about 10 feet, 10, 12 feet wide.
So would you be positioning those cement curb stops?
I think it would depend. That would be at the building department's discretion. Near the building, I would say yes, but if it's not near the building, I would say no.
Mhm.
It's more a site plan discussion.
Yeah, the Commissioner Parkins is, you want to go ahead and
I'm just inquiring whether this is more of a site plan discussion rather than what this
Text.
application is for.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Attorney Bellis.
For the uses, again, I was looking at the guide for the Connecticut municipalities, uses for these farm structures. And so a lot of the language comes from that. The farm store may be used for the year-round sale. That answers one of your questions. It's year-round. Of raw and or processed agricultural and horticultural products, services and activities, including farm produce, packaged meat and poultry, and other value-added products. So let me stop right there.
Yeah, that's what's got to be explained.
So under agriculture, the definition is that comes from the Connecticut General Statutes 1-1. And they talk about, well, I don't want to read the whole thing to you, but it refers to handling, planting, drying, packaging, processing, blah, 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 market and agriculture or horticultural commodities as an incident to ordinary farming operations, or in the case of fruits and vegetables, an incident to the preparation of such fruits and vegetables for market or for direct sale. So it's all agriculturally farm related products. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, so your value added, you're talking about value added agricultural products.
That's correct.
Okay.
Can you give us
And-
an example of that?
Value added. Yeah, I think that Fred Monahan had given you an example where if you take tomatoes and then you could make the salsa for
Okay,
the chips. Yeah, something like that.
all right.
And then it says, with a kitchen abiding by state and local health department regulations. That is something that our local health department oversees, any of those operations. It wouldn't be zoning. And then it says, and then we talked about this last time, with 50% of the sales produced on premises or from a Shelton agriculture or craft producers. So the
How are you going
idea,
to be able to,
Explain that.
well, not so much explain it first, how are you going to be able to document that kind of 50% sales?
well, the owner of the premises knows when he rings something out, whether that was a product that he produced on site or given to him by another farmer or craftsperson from Shelton.
Explain the
And-
craftsperson part. That's the farming stuff. I can understand that. It's the potentially value added craft production stuff. That seems to be a very wide open thing, Steve.
Again, I was reading from the agricultural guidelines, and I think what they were talking about in there were things like wreaths at
Okay.
Christmas time,
Okay.
and that's kind of what we're alluding to by a craft.
Okay, so it's something related to agricultural, horticultural.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
absolutely. Yeah.
it's
Okay,
not
they're
something totally
they're ex-
devoid of it.
No. This is all related to the word agriculture, which is a defined term. So there's not, no one's selling soap, mops, and things like that. These are all agricultural products.
It's got to be a little bit careful. What if you sold a T-shirt that somehow or other had on it something describing agricultural products? That might be all right. I don't know.
Not so sure a sale of a T-shirt is a craft, but can people abuse things? I don't know.
Yeah,
Tony.
obviously.
Yeah. That's
Attorney
not-
Bellis,
Yes.
right now, we do have up in White Hills a operation that they sell eggs and different things, and they have, I believe, alpacas, and the spouse, after they shear the alpaca, I believe she spins them into yarn and wool, and so is that the kind of craft producer that you're talking, that takes an agricultural product and
Yeah,
produces?
Yes, Commissioner. We all know Linda Hooper and her farm. She has sheep, lambs, and maybe alpaca. I'm not really sure. And then she does, she weaves them and makes wool blankets and other kind of items like that from the wool. That's what we're talking about.
All right, that's not who I was thinking of, but I didn't know. Well, thank you for clarifying it. Okay, go on.
The last section I added was a buffer that was suggested also by the Connecticut Agriculture. If there is a residential neighborhood that is nearby, I have proposed that there be a green belt, meaning that there would be trees, and keep that landscaped at least 20 feet wide to provide some buffering from the surrounding residential neighborhoods.
They're gonna try and talk, but the thing is,
Sorry, there's only one person talking at a time, and that's Attorney Bellis. There is anybody else from the applicant that would like to speak, you have to identify yourself first. We can't have more than one person speaking over each other. Okay, so Attorney Bellis, you want to continue?
So the buffer is to help residents that have, if there's a residential neighborhood nearby, it's basically for screening.
Okay, and was there another comment that another member of the applicant's presentation wants to comment on? No? Okay. All right, what else do you have for us, Attorney Bellis?
Steve, in the capacity of buffers, are you going to require some additional setback for a large building as compared to a normal residential setback in that zone?
Well, last time we met, I thought it was the feeling of the commission to leave the setbacks that we have in the R1 zone. So I did not address setbacks in this
So you-
particular
you
regulation.
don't- Okay, you feel that that's adequate? If you happen to be adjacent to a developed residential property?
I had initially proposed having a little more, I had proposed a little stricter standards for setbacks. But from what I was hearing from the commission, that I don't know, I don't think there was a strong feeling for that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, okay,
I don't think the
I
topic
have some
was to be
concerns, but-
explored. Yeah, I don't think that topic was really investigated.
Yeah, they have not been flushed out.
Okay,
The setback regulations would then be and can be put in the bulk standard section.
Yeah, if it were a normal, small scale farm stand, I wouldn't be concerned of it either. But if it could be something as large as a 6,000 square foot building, it probably warrants additional setback from a residence district boundary line,
I don't disagree with
Or,
that.
I'm sorry, adjacent property line.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And we could address that in the setback section, not this section, right?
Okay.
mhm. All right, is there anything else you want to
Setback section.
go over with us?
Where's the setback section?
There wasn't anything submitted, Mr. Panico. I think Attorney Bellis is talking about the setback pages in our zoning book.
Oh, but you would have to propose it, Steve. Since you're proposing a 6,000 square foot building, you should propose the necessary protection.
Yeah, okay. I can certainly do that. Yep, I can provide the setbacks. I did in the first time we met, but
I thought you did.
yeah, I did. And then someone said, why don't you just use what you have? So I can go back to that.
Mhm. Before we go on, do any commissioners that are participating remotely have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Laskos, Commissioner Tiki, Commissioner Onofrio?
This is Commissioner Laskos. On the grass and gravel, I was thinking like a wood chip could also be
Mhm.
used at some farm locations.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion. I have no problem with that.
Is that a durable material to use with all types of vehicles going over it?
Probably have to change it every year, but that's fine. Yeah.
Well, the problem, wood chips is good during the normal seasons. It's when you get into the winter and you have snow that you have to remove, you're probably going to end up removing the wood chips with it.
It's a
Okay.
similar situation.
I
with
think your
gravel.
alternative of grass block is a good possibility.
Mhm. Okay, Commissioner, any further
Yes.
questions, Commissioner Laskos? Right now?
No, not at this point.
All right, did another commissioner have a question?
Yes, this is Commissioner Tiki. Some of the questions that I had were addressed, but I would be interested to see what the applicant's thoughts are on a setback. I do agree with the 6,000 square foot building to see what would fit with the neighborhood in the way of setbacks with this.
Yeah, I think what Mr. Panico was suggesting, Commissioner Tiki, was that I increase those setbacks, and I don't have a problem doing that whatsoever. I initially had the same feeling as you guys, but for some reason there was a little pushback, but that's fine. I agree with you on that. Yes.
Okay. All right, Attorney Bellis, anything else, or Mr. Panico, anything else before we open it up to the public? Okay, all right, Mr. Rossetti, what do you have for us?
Have the sign up sheet?
Yeah, thank you.
Let me present this first.
Yeah, go
And
ahead.
then, if anything, we can go on top of it.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you can hear me okay on Zoom. Yesterday, April 19th, right? Yeah, yesterday, April 19th, the Planning and Zoning Department received a petition from, I believe we tallied up 85 signatures on this petition in opposition to this application. So I will read that petition into the record on behalf of those signatories. We, the residents and taxpayers of Labuda Place, strongly oppose application number 2204, farm stand text amendment as applied for on March 2nd, 2022, as such change directly impacts our neighborhood and surrounding community, but providing an opportunity for adjacent small tracts of farmland amid our residential neighborhood to be developed for active commercial purposes. Our chief concerns with the application and proposed amendment to the definition of farm stand include, but are not limited to, the following. The change to the overall zoning regulation and definition is for the specific purpose and interest of one party to the detriment of the surrounding impacted community. The attempt to change the definition is being done to otherwise circumvent the rules and administrative process that would be required to request a use variance and to develop a targeted piece of property not currently zoned for that specific development. A rule affecting the entire city should not be changed for the sole purpose of one interested party attempting to develop a specific piece of property for his own benefit. Proper channels currently exist for such circumstances and should be followed. Failure to do so will encourage future individuals or groups seeking a specific purpose to reach such result by engaging a complete citywide change to the zoning rules, thereby rendering the current use variance regulations without effect. The application submitted is incomplete, violation of the spirit of the use variance regulations and the overall administrative process. Second, expansion of the current definition of farm stand by over 15 times the current regulatory size is excessive and flies in the face of the traditional notion of a farm stand. Expanding the definition of a farm stand to include a building up to 6,000 square feet with kitchen facilities resembles a commercial operation more than a local farm looking to sell its harvest and products. For sake of comparison, the typical Chili's Grill and Bar restaurant is roughly, quote, 6,000 square feet in size, end quote. The proposed amendment is essentially allowing development of a building size of a chain restaurant, which could be located within an otherwise residential neighborhood. Potential commercial development and the related activity are not appropriate in the circumstances or on the minimum scale of land being proposed. For circumstances where such development may be appropriate, the use variance regulations already afford potential developers the opportunity to be granted the relief being sought. Specifically to the targeted piece of land at the center of this issue, the neighborhood was rezoned approximately 15 years ago to be R1 residential lots from the previous farmland zoning. The rezoning was done by the still existing landowner to specifically sell these residential lots for substantial profit, and many of the residents who originally purchased these lots still reside in the neighborhood today. Unable to sell the remaining land for residential development at a targeted profit point, the application number 2204 is a subtle attempt to now rezone the remaining land for commercial activity for additional financial gains to the detriment of the existing owners who originally purchased their lots under the guise that the remaining tract of land would only be residentially developed in the future. As the application is being presented as a broad change to a city's regulations, the impact is widespread and could lead to future commercial development within residential neighborhoods through the city to the detriment of existing residents. Shelton has a rich history of farming that should be respected. and farmers should be given opportunities to thrive. The current definition of a farm stand is antiquated in terms of that being the sole method for a farmer to run a commercially viable business. That said, the original zoning regulation also did not take into account the additional avenues for farmers to thrive in a modern world, and application seems to ignore this potential. For example, the farmers market, robust commercial storefront areas throughout the city that have been developed, and delivery services, just to name a few. Changing a definition of a farm stand to the detriment of the surrounding residential neighborhoods for the sole purpose of expanding the already robust income potential of a single farmer is unconscionable. Thank you. Studies conducted at the intersection of Maple, East Village, and Wabuda already show significant traffic through the area. Potential for a development of a building similar to other commercial activities would only increase traffic to the area where many residents currently like to walk their dogs, exercise, or where children ride their bikes. Potential for unwelcome activities to a residential neighborhood, including but not limited to live music events, festivals, other large gatherings and activities, marijuana dispensation, distilling, commercial food preparation, and animal slaughtering. All of these would create auditory and olfactory pollution to the surrounding residential neighbors' quiet and peaceful use and enjoyment of their properties. The subject parcel of land at the heart of the application can be reasonably developed for residential use, and in fact was rezoned and intended to be developed for residential use. A key consideration under Connecticut General Statute Section 4.4.6a of the use variance regulations, but for the maximization of profits by transforming such property into commercial use. Such property could be developed into the original intended residential use in accordance with the existing neighborhood. Let me backtrack. When I mentioned 4.4.6a, that may or may not be the Connecticut General Statutes or may be the zoning regulations. I am not sure. The city already has significant other commercially zoned areas for operations of the proposed size, scale, and activity, and as such, there is no exceptional difficulty or unusual hardship presented to the applicant given the abundance of existing options and locations, a key consideration under 4.4.6b of the use variance regulations. The change to the regulations as proposed in the application would severely impair the character of several neighborhoods throughout the city where commercial activity can be conducted in otherwise residential neighborhoods. This has the effect of creating a significant negative impact to property values, especially for the homes directly abutting and near the potential tracts of land, and creates additional traffic to the area to the safety and welfare of walkers, runners, cyclists, and children who reside in the neighborhoods. The application has the effect of impairing residential neighborhoods for commercial profit and does not conserve the public health, safety, convenience, welfare, and potential values, a key consideration under 4.4.6c for the use variance regulations. As noted, we do understand the current farm stand definition is outdated and antiquated and should be updated to reflect more realistic measures of a modern farm stand. To that end, the definition should be done in a reasonable and thoughtful manner, taking into account realistic common sense notions of a farm stand and extracting out concepts of commercial activity, which should be conducted on appropriate commercially zoned property. In light of this, we would support all of the following for the commission to consider and what we believe to be reasonable and responsible updates to the definition impacting the entire city, and request that application number 22-04 be amended to include these items. 1. No kitchen or food preparation can be conducted in the farm stand or on the property where the acreage is less than 25 continuous acres, as these exhibit elements of commercial activity and will negatively impact surrounding property owners. 2. Limit the size of the farm stand building to no larger than 2,000 square feet on acreage between 10 to 25 continuous acres, noting that properties of these acreages could fall squarely within heavy residential areas, so the footprint and impact of the farm stand should be minimal to the surrounding residential neighborhood. The maximum amount of parking spaces to be limited to no more than 15 spaces. 3. Farm stands over 2,000 square feet, but no larger than 4,000 square feet, must be on acreage in excess of 25 continuous acres, and maximum amount of parking spaces to be limited to no more than 25 spaces. 4. Farm stands are prohibited in engaging in the sale, exchange, promotion, facilitation, warehousing, or distribution of alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, firearms, and ammunition, and other items lacking social responsibility characteristics. 5. Minimum setback requirements of at least 1,500 feet from all streets and abutting property lines, so the farm stand will not be an attractive nuisance and prevent the farm stand from being intrusive to neighboring property owners seeking quiet and peaceful enjoyment of their own property. And what's 6? Under no circumstances can farm stands located under 50 continuous acres host, entertain, or conduct live music events, festivals, other large gatherings, and activities, as such activities directly impact the surrounding community's public health, safety, convenience, welfare, and property values. This petition was signed by approximately 85 residents in the town. This will be posted online shortly for everyone else to review and read. Yeah, we just have not had time to process this yet. And then I'm sure you will mention this to the public as to future comments.
Yeah. Okay, any questions for Mr. Rossetti from any of the commissioners or Mr. Panico? Okay, if not, we'll open up our public portion, and the first person's name is Chris Carrera. And when you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. Thank you. I'm sorry.
If they've signed on to this already, then don't repeat the same comments.
Yeah, comments that staff just made and confirmed by Commissioner Parkins is if you have signed the petition, we have all of the information that was just read to us in written form, so you don't need to restate that. But if you have some new information, that would be appreciated.
Name is Chris Carrera, 35 Station Drive in Shelton. I came here, it was interesting, I came here thinking we were talking about a farm stand definition today, and at all times we keep referring to a farm store. So I'm not sure if that's just a Freudian slip on their part, just in reality to what this actually is in terms of size and scope. In terms of the petition, we have had broad support, and given that we've only had a week to really disseminate it, the live petition signatures that we have are probably up to 100 right now. There's also an online petition, which before checked is probably up to about 150 people. Live petition went live about 24 hours ago. So it was about 150 signatures within 24 hours. Pretty good. All right, so I did a little research. Google's pretty unique. Pulled up farm stands, Connecticut. Farm stand. Farm stand. This one's unique. I actually know the owner of this farm up in Bridgewater. That's farm stand. He says his is 150 square feet. It's more than ample enough for doing what he does. And according to him, the Bridgewater town rules say they only go up to 1,000 square feet in size. I'm not sure why we need to go 6,000 when at least one other town I'm aware of goes to 1,000. I tried looking through Monroe and Trumbull. The regulations are difficult to read if you don't read them all day, and I think they go up to 1,000, maybe 2,000. In any event, substantially less than 6,000. This is not a farm stand. This is a Chili's Bar and Grill. It is approximately 6,000 square feet in size based on Chili's fact sheet that they post on their restaurants. That's relative to the size of a building that can go on a piece of property among a residential neighborhood. So I asked the commission, would anybody be interested in something in this size in their backyard? Because I don't think anybody here is really interested in something of that size scope. Not saying it's to be that tall, but it leaves a pretty big footprint. And it also generates a lot of traffic. So speaking to the farm owner I referenced before, and this is a direct quote, I'm all for protecting farms and helping them be profitable, but 6,000 square feet is huge. And this is coming from a farmer who has an active farm stand. So we have huge, this is a huge enterprise you're looking to put on there. We could cloak it in terms of this nice quaint term called a farm stand. Everything's a farm stand, it's a small thing. Farm stands aren't 6,000 square feet. They're probably not even 3,000 square feet. And the petition that we put together, I think, is pretty reasonable in suggestions that the applicant can take away and maybe amend with. We don't think it, the current definition maybe is adequate, but certainly going way beyond what we have now is inappropriate, especially given the areas that they're proposed to be in. Couple items I want to read from some of the people that posted petitions online that I think are pretty relevant to the situation. So the one that struck me the most, and I'm just going to even summarize it, you can feel free to go online and read it. It's a pretty lengthy post, but I'm signing this petition because another local farm bought the house next to me and turned the backyard into their parking lot for their customers and employees. They also cut a path through the wetlands from this parking lot to the dead end directly behind my backyard so their employers and customers can access their farm. Reading on, invading my privacy, bringing trespassers onto my property, unleashed dogs attacking my pets, grown men urinating in plain sight of my backyard.
Mr. Carrera, as I stated at the beginning when I went through the guidelines, comments from the public should address specific criteria of the zoning regs, the merits of the application. Okay, talking about a situation that may exist in the city of Shelton is not necessarily appropriate because even worst case scenario, we wouldn't know if that would be the situation, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from. You have to,
I understand.
this is what,
I guess it's a general
talk about what
concern,
they, yeah.
right? It's a general concern of the increased traffic, not just automobiles, foot traffic, unknown individuals coming into residential neighborhoods that otherwise have no reason to be there other than a potential large operation going there. So it led to the question is why do we need this change? What is the benefit to the city of Shelton to have a complete overhaul of the definition of the rule? Is there some sort of need the community is pouring out for? I don't really see why there's a large scale need to change it. I mean, there seems to be ample commercial development going on, ample space where these type of operations fit right in, versus where they're proposed to be put in among residential areas. The traffic is a big concern. Are there going to be traffic studies that are going to be done in advance? There isn't anything in the amendment that is going to require this. But I mean, you can imagine there are some pretty highly trafficked areas already in residential areas. And if you're going to be talking adding a couple hundred people or around certain holiday times a year, maybe thousands of people coming through, that's a big impact to a community, especially ones that have active people outside trying to enjoy the streets and otherwise, whether it's running, biking, cycling, or whatever the case may be. So, there's that concern. Is just the overall concern of people are just normal commuting. We have an 8 o'clock potential start time, and that's right in the heart of rush hour. So people coming down, for example, East Village, right? There's a tract of land right there. Now there's already enough traffic through there. Now we're going to add more traffic through there. People are going to have to go to work, go to school. It's really going to create a traffic nightmare in certain situations. The live music potential issues, that you're in a residential neighborhood, it's inappropriate at best to have things there, but any large gatherings creating any sorts of noise that can disrupt the neighborhood should specifically not be included if it's going to be in an R1 zone area. So the only other comment I have is if this is a change to potentially bring up non-conforming buildings or properties into conformance, then I don't know if this is the right way to go about it. It's inappropriate, it's irresponsible, and it just impacts and damages will be directly felt by the residents in the sections of town that expect to have their best interests taken at heart from this. Changing definition to change the sins of the past will only lead to new transgressions in the future. Instead, fix the process and mechanism that led to this point if we're trying to change the rules to fix non-conforming properties and bring it into conformance. So don't move the goalpost just to say, well, we're all fine and everything's now good. I ask you, if you said your doctor had high blood pressure and he gave you all sorts of ways to change it, and then it wasn't working, would you want your doctor to say, well, then we'll just move the metrics to it so that all of a sudden now your high blood pressures are right? Right, you're not fixing the problem, you're just moving the goalpost to accommodate something that probably shouldn't be accommodated. So Please take it into consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Carrera. Did you want to leave those photographs with Mr. Rossetti? Okay, next signed up is Patrick Riddle.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Riddle. I live on 2 Morgan Court, which is right off of Wabuda. I've been a Shelton resident for about 40 years. And I'm one of the original owners of in that area. I've been there for 16 years. Thank you for the commission for allowing me to speak. I'd also like to thank Fred. Fred has met with us privately and took time out of his busy schedule to explain what he was doing. And I know Fred, I know his family, and he's a good person. So I just want to point that out. I also, as a businessman, understand why Fred wants to do this. Would be very beneficial to the business, I think. But I really think that also that benefit ends with Fred and does not help the surrounding neighborhood at all. This is, to me, a very highly impactful suggested change. There will be noise, there will be pollution, there will be increased traffic. And this traffic in this area is a very problematic already. People who live in that area can tell you that there's backups all the time on weekends and during the week, and this is going to really impact it tremendously. I have not heard or in any of the comments anything about how this traffic is going to be dealt with. Fred shared with me that there would be, instead of a 3-way stop in that area, it would turn into a 4-way stop in that area. So I can tell you that as word of this change goes out beyond the neighborhood that is directly impacted, in my conversations with people up the East Village Road, people were stunned that additional traffic was going to be funneling through there, that 3-way stop is going to become a 4-way stop. And this is, I would tell you that the 100 signatures, the 85 that you have, and the 100 online is going to turn into hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Can I just stop
Yes.
you, Mr. Riddle, because I think the traffic authority in town is the police department, and they're the appropriate ones to weigh in on how traffic would be handled. So any comment that the applicant has made is as far as I'm concerned, would be speculative at this point as to how it would be handled. I just want to clarify that the traffic.
As far as how.
Yeah, 3-way to a 4-way. So I just want
So
to.
that, okay, so that's why it hasn't been discussed. It's not.
Right,
at this point.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, that does explain to me that sounded somewhat nightmarish. Certainly the addition of the retail establishment and the car traffic, regardless of whether it's 3 or 4-way, it's probably worse at 3-way, is going to be a tremendous burden to the people who live in the area. That area, East Village Park is a very popular area, particularly on the weekends in the summer when there's soccer all morning and softball and just tennis and general enjoyment in that area. It's a high traffic area. This really has to be looked at because it's going to be very very onerous to the people who live there. Just a few more comments. How many buildings are we talking about? There was a very good point that one of the commissioners brought up when he said there's a 6,000 square foot building. Could there be multiple 6,000 square foot buildings?
We don't have a specific application other than the text amendment. That would be a site plan review. So.
Well, it would be in the text amendment.
Yeah, but it doesn't have it
Right.
as submitted.
So
Yeah.
just my naivety about the process. It seems to me that we're actually writing the application right now. There's a give and take with the attorney and the commission about how this should be written, and there's amendments being made in front of the public on an iterative basis. Is that a normal process?
Now, that's why I commented specifically at the beginning to Attorney Bellis that the applicant needs to submit something that's definitive, and that's what we act on. For us to go back and forth is not the normal course of action.
Okay. So after Attorney Bellis, will it be a final submittal of the application, and is that then viewed again by the public?
Until we close the public hearing, there could be other materials submitted. It'll be posted on the website. That anytime new material gets posted on the website, public is definitely permitted to comment and give us feedback.
Okay, so there'll be, is this the last meeting that there is for this?
Now, what will happen is that I will ask the commissioners that are present as to how they want to go forward. Is this a public hearing that we should close this evening, or we should keep it open to a future date? And that future date would be posted by staff.
Has the commission and the applicant explored access to the property from Route 110?
I can tell you that we do not have an application on file for a specific piece of property. This is just a text amendment for a zone.
Okay. This neighborhood, I've been there for 16 years. When I bought this house, there were 2 kids on the street, and they were mine, and they're in high school now. And it has changed a lot. And there are probably 40 or 50 young children in the neighborhood now. Parents with strollers, people from 6 to 60 out walking and enjoying the neighborhood. And this is, again, I want to emphasize the impact that this has. It's not a slight impact. Those were the main things I wanted to bring up. Again, thanks for letting us talk through this. We certainly, we're all supportive of the farms. We've all been to Fred's current operation. But this particular thing, I think, is extremely impactful, and we want to try to avoid that. And we support the farming community, all of us, but we don't want a repeat of constant traffic and people from all over the New England and New York coming and this becoming a destination. It's not what we signed up for when we bought these properties. These properties are expensive. We are all taxpayers, and we're not supportive of it. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle. Next signed up was Vincent O'Brien.
Hi, Vince O'Brien, 153 Village Drive. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I am also opposed to the zoning change. In general, I think it's been reiterated that the whole process itself was very secretive in the sense of what the target was. This looked to be a proposal to facilitate a sale between one party to another, putting in force a town-wide proposal. Unlike the petitioners, I agree with most of what the petition did. I helped distribute it. Most of the people I spoke with actually thought it was too generous in terms of what Chris and company were writing, that the 2,000 square feet was quite generous. I do commend Chris for writing a very thorough proposal, and I think that actually provides more detail than the actual proposal that we're being considered today. Again, many of the signees that I dealt with think this should remain residential and not commercial. People who are residing in that area have the expectation that it's a residential area and that they did not purchase property to have a store put right next to them. No matter what kind of window dressing is put on with 20 feet or any other kind of buffer. This is a large scale store that's being put in place in a residential area. Even with parking reduced down to 30 spaces or 15 spaces, there's nothing to prohibit the parking than to run up the street on Rabuta Place or on East Village, also contributing to higher traffic congestions, more delays, and adding to a very bad situation already with traffic. I would say if this venture was going to access Route 110, you would have, I think, very minimal disagreement because people would then understand that it's commercial space on that road and that you're accessing a farm. But accessing it from a residential area into a commercial enterprise is not appropriate for the area that we are with. I would urge you to look at the proposal from the point of view of the people who live in the area, who do the day-to-day living in the area, and not as a means of just facilitating a sale and maximizing the profit for the person looking to sell it and for the purchaser. Okay, I want to thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Next, Mike Codadella.
My name is Mike Catabella. I live at 1 East Village Road. I'm more than a little concerned about the effect that this so-called farm stand would have on the traffic past my house. I have a hard time getting out of my driveway as it is now. Cars currently pay no respect to the stop signs that were glued at East Village Road. They just keep rolling through the intersection one after another. All I get when I'm trying to leave my driveway is all types of hand gestures and dirty looks. I can only imagine what a four-way stop would increase traffic flow will bring. I don't feel this would be the best location for a commercial operation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Codadella. Next is Jen Wetmore. Or John.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Whitmore. I reside at 70 Station Drive in Shelton. I've been a resident of Shelton my entire life, fair to say over 40 years already. I'm an attorney. I've worked with Attorney Belts before, a business owner in town, and a lot in town. I serve on boards. My wife and I have a charity event. I'm very pro-growth. I support farms. I've never been at one of these meetings complaining, and that should say something that I'm hearing. This application is inappropriate at best. And my big problem with it is, everyone keeps talking about what's going to happen at the corner of East Village and Labuda. And the reason that we're doing that is because that's the intent of this whole thing. That's the whole reason that they want this text amendment. And if they want to change the law or the code so that they can do that, what they should do is they should go through the proper order and apply for a variance, give notice to the neighborhood so that there can be a proper channels followed. That wasn't done. And the reason it wasn't done is because they didn't want notice to happen to everybody involved, so it would be a big thing. And so I have a problem with the way that was done. And I don't think this is going to serve the neighborhood well. Obviously the traffic's a big problem, among other things. So I hope you guys take this into consideration. This doesn't preclude Stone Gardens from being able to try to acquire this particular piece of property and then apply for a variance. I also think it's inappropriate to grant this entire thing without even considering what other farms are involved in Shelton. We're talking about the Buddha place, but what about the farms on East Village and the farms all over town? We're applying a broad regulation to all these other farms without really even considering what those would be like or whether or not other farmers would need things like this. So I just hope the commission takes that into account, and I hope they deny this application. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Wetmore. Next, Cheryl O'Brien.
My name is Cheryl O'Brien. I live at 153 Village Drive in
There you go.
Shelton. I've lived there for about 25 years, seen a lot of things come and go. My major problem with this is the traffic. I mean, you guys know that between the stoplight, between 110 and East Village Road, there is a very short space. But then when you hit the stop sign at Labuda. Okay, so just think about how the traffic is going to be impacted coming across 110 and then getting roughed up there and having to stop. And if it's a four-way stop sign and you've got people coming from the other way on East Village trying to make the left into Labuda and the right. Plus, you do know that there's the White Hills Volunteer Fire Department that's a block away from 110 across from Bona Vista, which will also affect the people over there. I am just very curious. There was a short article in the Shelton Herald that quotes Attorney Bellis as saying that he created the proposal, and it says, quote, now this could be wrong, I don't know, maybe he was misquoted. This prevents a commercial operation, comma, store, comma, or slaughterhouse activity. Adding that any such wording would also contain a buffer of trees with adjacent residential neighborhoods. And then shortly after that, you have a quote from Stacia Monahan saying, define farm products as beef, pigs, chicken, turkeys, all the meat we raise, as well as goats and lambs raised in other towns or Shelton that they would like to sell. She added that farm products are also prepared foods, value-added products that we can create from our farm that are in demand to the public. Correct me if I'm wrong, but commerce is buying and selling, and a store is a place where buying and selling occurs. These two things to me are completely incompatible. I don't see how you could say that it would prevent a commercial operation and then say, well, this is what we're going to use our 6,000 square foot building for. Maybe I'm wrong. Do we have a different definition of commerce and store here?
The applicant will respond to any questions at the end.
Okay, well, my point here is, can we get a commitment from you guys that you will not act on this proposal until all of the concerns that we are here expressing are heard and are debated publicly, and maybe we get a new proposal from the Monahans and Mr. Ballas?
A new proposal presented would be the decision of the applicant.
Can I get a commitment from you that you won't act on this proposal as it's written right now after hearing all the concerns from the residents?
As I expressed earlier, at the end of the public hearing, after the applicant has had a chance to address any concerns made by the public, I will be asking, as I do for all other public hearings, as to whether or not the commission wants to keep the public hearing open or close it. And we've been pretty, I think, forthcoming on how we proceed as to.
Okay, well, that's my request then to each of the commission members who are here.
Mhm.
Would you please make a commitment to us that you will not move forward on this until there are further amendments made? I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. Next is, I'm not too sure about the first name, but the last name is Corona?
Yeah,
Ernest, okay.
Hi there. My name is Ernest Corona, and I reside at 55 Woodward Place. My family and I bought this lot about 3-4 years ago, and we paid over $200,000 for this lot. We loved it there. We fell in love because of the peace, the quietness. It really bothered me to find out about this proposal. And the way it was done, it was just very unfair. I am glad that we had a neighborhood meeting and I was informed about it. You know, no one has thought about the market values of these homes. No one has thought about the peace in this neighborhood. No one has thought about the speeding issue. What's going to happen if we do end up with the business here? You know, selling alcohol, like seriously, in a nice neighborhood? Are you kidding me? You know, this is a residential area, not a commercial space. I mean, no one will want a commercial space right in their backyard, slaughtering animals. It's just very unfair. We're very concerned. We just built our home. We've just been living there for less than 2 years, and we're not happy. I hope that you guys really take all this information, all of our concerns into consideration. It's just not fair. Thank you.
You're welcome. I just want to reiterate that we do not have a specific application in front of us. This is only for a text change. The application, like other applications we receive in town, specifically states this is what we want to do and this is where it would be. This is just a text change to suggest that an operation could be positioned in the R1. So we have nothing on file that's would say that there are plans to sell alcohol or doing slaughtering. That's, but your other concerns are taken seriously into account as to market value, quietness, location. Okay. And next is Anthony Corona.
Hi, good evening. My name is Anthony Corona, 55 Woodbury. Just like my wife said, I mean, we just got that lot 2 years ago. We put a lot of money on it, on the house, and basically, if I would know that there was gonna be a farm there, then might as well I would have bought a farm and not spend $1 million plus there. I mean, you know, so I don't think it's appropriate for that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is David Gasel. You're not here for, no, okay. That's what I think. All right. So next one is Alexander Cal. Okay. Is that the complete last name?
Cal, yeah.
Okay, all right. And your address, sir?
47 Labuda.
Okay.
I actually thought that was an attendance sheet, but since I'm on the roster, you know, I will also voice my opinion here to echo what we've all heard here. I mean, I'm also newer to the neighborhood here, bought under the premise that it's a residential neighborhood. I understand that, you know, there's no specific proposal here, but clearly the way that, or based on what we've been hearing, you know, it's a very targeted, you know, strategy here to develop that piece on Labuda. I'm opposed to it. Don't think it's appropriate to have a 6,000 square foot commercial facility in our neighborhood. Don't like the potential for traffic. I understand there needs to be studies and things like that as well. And I just, you know, want to voice my opinion here and appreciate you all hearing me out here.
Okay, thank you. Next is John Woods.
Good evening. My name is John Woods. I live on 137 Village Drive. Been there for 40 years. I'm not really sure how this works with the Planning and Zoning Commission. So forgive me and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
First of all, do you ever go to the neighborhood that you're talking about? I don't know how you work. So if you go to Labuda Village Drive.
Sir.
Okay.
You present your comments to the commission up here, okay?
I'm presenting them.
Yeah, just.
Right now, you will find people who, I have no children, walking their children, walking their dog, riding their bikes without a 6,000 square foot. And I just can't believe you still use the word farm stand. Please, they are not selling tomatoes at this farm stand. You need to work on this wording, which is just ridiculous. Go to Labuda East Village tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and people will be walking their children, riding their bikes, and walking their dogs. They're not interested in having a 6,000 square foot building in their neighborhood with cars up the wazoo, no matter what you say. And the attorney, who very graciously said he's going to have 20 feet of separation between this commercial building zone and the houses. Please, are you kidding me? 20 feet? If you lay down, there's more than 20 feet. It's just, this is just bizarre beyond belief. All I'm asking you to do is go there and walk around, and you'll see that this is totally inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Next is Brenda Woods.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. And I'm just going to speak from the heart because.
Could you just identify your address for the record, please?
My address is 51 Wabuda Place.
Okay.
And I've been there for about 15 years. I'm one of the original residents that moved into that area, but I've been in Shelton for almost 30 years. And so I really love the area. But the reason I moved from where I was further up East Village Road is because there was a farm there, and I knew there was a farm nearby, but I didn't know it would impact me. And I was about a block or two away from it, but I could still smell the animals, okay? And so that inspired me to find somewhere else to live. So lo and behold, I'm gonna be in another farm area. Not to mention the fact that this property cost so much money. Everything we own went into that. And now I'm facing the fact that the property may not even be worth half of what I placed in it, because I would have never moved there if I knew there was gonna be a farm. And a farm of this magnitude where there would be commercial activity. And although you're saying that there may not be liquor there, what do they sell at their current location? What do they have there? The potential now is for that to triple, whatever they're doing at their current location. So what's the benefit? What's the purpose even of approving something like this when it's impacting the whole town of Shelton, because these zoning changes will impact the entire city? And so you are facing possibly thousands of residents coming forward protesting if it's possible that their home areas may be impacted by this. So it's important for us that we are in a place where we feel secure, we feel peaceful, because that's why we moved here in the first place and was willing to pay this amount of money to be here. Not to mention the fact that even without all this traffic and activity, we've already experienced speeders. My husband had a car that was wiped out, parked in our front yard or our driveway that he was selling, and somebody's drunk driving ran around the street and wiped out the car. So just imagine if this proposal went forward, how much traffic we're going to be facing, how much insecurity we're going to be living under. And so I'm speaking from the heart, because it's not a business issue for us. I mean, we're not making any money compared to what this proposal is trying to achieve for one person. This is our life. This is our home. Okay, this is where we have to dedicate ourselves to live. Okay, it is a greater value for us than any business owner. So if you would just keep that in mind, weighing the balance as to who is going to benefit the most by having this stand. It's not going to be any of us. It's probably not even the whole town of Shelton. So I'm just asking from the heart that you really consider the impact, the negative impact it's going to have on us, as opposed to one person who can build a business anywhere. But where can we go? Where are we going to go and live if this happens? Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Brenda. And last on the list is Tom Harbinson.
Tom Harbinson, 15 Soundcrest Drive, obviously in Shelton. I spoke at your March 29th public hearing regarding the application, and with the April 18th amendments to the application, I wanted to speak again to those. Tony Panico was correct in that the application amendment should refer to site plan section 31, not 33. So all the items regarding farm structure that reference 33 onward, those should be 31. Also, in terms of the terminology, I know our zoning standards have the term of a farm stand, and that is defined as, I think it was 300 square feet. I'm just wondering about the term farm structure, because there are farm structures in town that are larger than 6,000 square feet. And would this prohibit such construction in the future on those types of parcels? I should preface for the others in the room who may not know me that I'm chairman of the Conservation Commission of Shelton, and we did discuss this application briefly at our Wednesday, April 6th monthly meeting. Our discussion centered around the agricultural activities, having adequate off-street parking for staff, in addition to any patrons that would be visiting the farm. And those concerns were communicated to P&C department staff. Secondly, I've lived in Shelton for not quite 60 years, but I did take my first step the day my parents moved into their house in Shelton, and I live on the same street still. I was on the Planning and Zoning Committee that drafted your plan of conservation and development. I've served as a Planning and Zoning Commission alternate. I've served on the Shelton Conservation Commission for nearly a quarter of a century. Plus, I am a 5th generation farmer owning my family's farm, and I have a passion for agriculture, and thus have a few personal thoughts regarding this application that I might not have expressed before. Going back to that amendment under the 31 7-3, the hours of operation, agreed with Tony Panico's comments regarding the verbiage of shall be open. I don't want to mandate that any farmer must be up at 8 a.m. because they're typically up before 8 a.m. And a facility being year-round with those hours, there's maybe the opportunity of the maximum period of operation, so some change in the language for that line item. Regarding exterior lighting, I would encourage maybe to make it dark sky compliant, which is a common terminology that includes the concept of eliminating glare across property lines. Regarding parking, it was mentioned at 1 space per 200 square feet of gross area of the structure, maybe on grass or gravel. My vocation, I am a farm manager at Jones Family Farms, would tell me that wood chips are not a durable surface on which to park. So delineation on grass areas, as was asked by Commissioner Harder, can be done with just striping on grass. But you do want to have stabilized soil surfaces if you're going to use that. You want to remain with permeable surfaces if at all possible. Regarding the 3376 or 3176, regarding the 50% of sales, I just wondered if that would be 50% of products or 50% of sale volume revenue. And there are a number of craft producers in town that produce wool skeins and other value-added products from agricultural or animal products. I also wondered about the concept of what would be qualified as products. If somebody wants to come from New York and get a Christmas tree and wants to have a nice fashion shirt that says of the farm that they purchased it at, I think that kind of opportunity should continue. So I just want you to think broadly about how these regulation standards would apply to all farms within Shelton.
Mr. Harbinson, what was the word? What kind of products?
We call them fashion products.
Oh, fashion. Okay.
Hat, shirt, sweatshirt, baby onesie, that kind of stuff. So it was
mentioned earlier that do you go to see the property when you consider an application? I can say as a conservation commission, we do go see parcels that are being considered for our referrals to other agencies and departments in the town. And we definitely looked at this parcel. We made a presentation in the early 2000s, I believe it was 2003, a combined presentation to the Board of Aldermen regarding a recommendation to purchase as open space the Tall Farm, which is in South Shelton, the Lysick Farm, which is adjacent to the high school, and this Wabuda Farm. We were successful on 2 of them. This one obviously was then developed by Toll Brothers. And while they are very highly valued properties and do contribute significantly to our tax revenue, hearing that there are 50 children, potentially school age in the neighborhood, we're losing money. The amount of revenue generated from taxes is less than the cost of the education for that 50 student population. So that's just one of the arguments that we make for.
Remember that we were talking about addressing the text change.
Understood, sure, sorry. I have visited the property. I miss the pentways that are no longer there because of the houses that are there now. Regarding the terminology commercial activity, farming may be a commercial entity, but I really want to implore all the commissioners to remember that agricultural use is a definition that is different than commercial use. In regards to how agricultural use may impact other farms, because this regulation would apply to the entire city, I do have a reference to 4 or 5 other farms that do sell their produce on site in a location. I can run through them very quickly, just for the benefit of all the commissioners. The Laurel Glen Farm is operated by Randy and Victoria Rogowski, and they sell their farm's produce on 5 contiguous properties totaling 5.13 acres on Waverly Road. And while they grow produce on the combination of those 5 parcels, they also grow on their separate 13.2 acre property down the road on Booth Hill. None of their lands are protected from development. With Stone Gardens, Red and Stash and Monaghan sell farm produce and products at a retail location on a single 5.18 acre parcel on Sawmill City Road. And while they sell their produce on Sawmill City Road, the bulk of their produce and feedstock for animal grazing is grown upon leased fields on Birdseye Road, as well as separate fields throughout Shelton. So the majority of the lands that they farm are not protected from development via easement or purchase of development rights. Guy's Eco Garden, although Guy Beersley has passed away recently, he operated on a 5.3 acre parcel on Leavenworth Road. He also grew crops on leased fields on Birdseye Road from the Shelton Land Trust. And while Guy's farmland is not protected from development, the leased lands from the Shelton Land Trust obviously are. A 14.19 acre forested parcel of land not used for growing crops was recently purchased by the city of Shelton from Guy Beersley as open space. East Village Farm, which I believe might have been the farm that Commissioner Harger might have been referring to earlier. Bob and Darlene Mingrone grow crops and create products such as soaps, wool skeins, etc. on a single 6.22 acre parcel on East Village Road, where they also raise sheep, llamas, alpacas, rabbits, and chickens. The Mingrones are participants in the Shelton Farmers Market and also sell their farm products on premises and at Jones Family Farms. The lands they grow upon are not protected from development. Bear Plain Farm. This is operated by a segment of the Wells family. It's a Christmas tree harvest location on a single 25 acre parcel on Old Mill Road that was recently purchased by the city. Although the land is not protected from development, it continues the agricultural activities via a lease from the city. Fairview Tree Farm, and I believe this was the farm that was being referenced in the speaker from a comment on a change.org petition. Fairview Tree Farm is another branch of the Wells family. It grows Christmas trees and offers seasonal produce and fall activities on 2 parcels totaling 52.23 acres on Sawmill City Road. And the lands they grow Christmas trees upon are not protected from development.
Beersley Cider Mill and Orchards. Dan Beersley welcomes guests to harvest fruits in the orchards and provides value-added products such as cider and baked goods. A separate distillery activity has also begun on the single 64-acre parcel along Leavenworth Road. The lands of the orchards are not protected from development. There are some others mentioned, like Linda Hooper. And again, I'm not here representing Jones Farm, but I am an employee of it. So just for full disclosure for others. But there's Jones Family Farms. Valley Farm is seasonal harvest by guests of berries and Christmas trees on an 80.3 acre parcel on Walnut Tree Hill Road. The lands for the crops are protected from development and will forever remain in agricultural use. The Pumpkin Seed Hill Farm has a seasonal harvest of berries and pumpkins on a 105.7 acre parcel on Beersley Road. The lands for the crops are protected from development and will forever remain in agricultural use.
Is there anything specific about this text amendment that you want to address? Because
Sure.
you should.
The text amendment is saying that a structure shall not exceed 6,000 square feet. The Wabuda parcel has a structure of 3,080 square feet upon it right now. And one of the barns at my employer is 6,592 square feet. So I'd like to have the definition of farm structure perhaps refined to mean a barn, which could be of a certain size that's needed for storing hay or equipment, versus what I believe is intended here as some sort of a facility that enables sales of the product. Commissioner Harger, or Chairman Harger, if I had any thoughts about what was recommended in the petition, should I express those now?
I'm just trying to be consistent in that if you have some comments about the application, which is a text change, I would limit them to that.
Okay, I'll limit to that. I'll just basically say that there are a couple of misinterpretations expressed in the change petition. And those should be examined closely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just ask?
Sure.
Mr. Harbinson,
Harbinson.
how many, when you started listing off all of those farms, how many of them are not included in the SDA R1A zone? So there's the overlay for many of those. So for many, Jones Farm, Guy's Echo Garden, there's a lot of them are included in that SDA overlay. How many are not included?
I'm going from memory. I know they all are in an R1 or R1A zone.
Right.
The area, portions of the area of the Jones's Valley Farm and their Nelson Farm used to be in an IA2 zone. But I'm not sure that there is a special development area overlay in that predominantly residential part of town.
No, it's only over the RA1.
Yeah, I don't think there's any SDAs for that. The only farm in town that would maybe apply to something like that would be Wells Hollow Creamery. But because that's in a commercial area on Bridgeport Avenue, I don't really think that's applicable to what we're considering.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. All right, last call for anyone from the public that may not have signed up. As long as, yeah. I'm sorry?
He's got to go to.
Yeah.
Chris Corona, 35 Sage again. Just a couple comments after sitting, kind of listen to that, whatever he said. The one thing that struck me is, and being in the accounting field, numbers are always very interesting to me. So the 50% sort of sale margin revenue, how is that going to be measured? Is there going to be an audit annually to ensure they're in compliance? Or how is that going to be monitored? Because what I tend to find in the tax code is there's a lot of rules with no teeth. So it's really great that we put standards in there, but how are we going to enforce those standards to make sure we're in compliance with those things? Second comment was And it probably wasn't intended this way, from Mr. Harbinson. The fact there's a lot of kids there and maybe it's a net tax loser for the town, shouldn't be a consideration, because ultimately the safety of kids should be a consideration, whether it's a net tax loser or not. And although our real estate taxes, quote unquote, don't cover their school bill, they are engaged in a lot of town programs. They go out to eat with us. They spend a lot of money across food. There's a lot of programs in town we spend money on. So maybe it's a net tax loser in somebody's opinion. Trust me, the kids aren't cheap and they engage in a lot of services around town. So, you know, you may not see it through a tax bill, but I can assure you, I can hand you my grocery bills and all the other stuff that we do around town in local areas and otherwise. And I'm sure we are contributing our fair share. So was concerned that minimizing the fact that there's kids there and putting sort of a dollar value on maybe their safety is probably an appropriate comment, even if it wasn't intended for that.
Okay. All right, Mr. Rossetti, is there anyone from the public who has indicated on Zoom that they'd like to participate? Okay. If there's anyone from the public on Zoom who has not already used the raise your hand feature, please do so that Mr. Rossetti will have you on his list to acknowledge.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Commission. This is Kimberly Wager from 156 Village Drive.
Okay.
Thank you. For
Kimberly, could you please spell your last name?
Wager, W-E-H-G-E-R.
Okay, and you said you were on Village Drive?
That is correct. House number 156.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm coming at this just as a resident of the neighborhood. I have been in Shelton and a resident for nearly 48 years, also on Village Drive. I'm still on the same road that my parents live on. So this is my first time, like one of my other neighbors, attending this meeting. So I might ask for your consideration from the commission as I took notes and attempted to keep up. I noted that at the beginning, when Attorney Bellis began, he said that the stated goal of the application was preserving agriculture and farmland. So I'm going to go through a couple of things that I noted that were just observations, and I will conclude with a couple of questions for the commission at the end for addressing. One of the parts of the application obviously refers to the definition of farm stand and farm structure. And unless I missed it in the application, not seeing that that was fully defined. The other part for me and a concern is that there's no clarity around the number of buildings on the site. So we've been referring to farm structure in the singular, but if this is a working farm and with the stated goal of preserving agriculture and farmland, I find it kind of hard to believe that only a single structure would be on this on a property that we are talking about converting. So going from R1 over to an agricultural type of farm stand expansion. I believe Mr. Harbinson has already addressed this, but following along, it would be helpful for me as just a resident to understand if we're referring to section 31 or 33 in regards to this. And then continuing along with the application, the stated hours of operation and the rationale regarding not being open after dark. I am, as a resident of this neighborhood, very interested to see how that's going to be clarified. We've heard a couple of different things about, from the perspective of someone who works on a farm about, that's not actually when operations kick off and may conclude. And as a resident of an area in an R1 zone, I certainly have an interest in understanding what that means about being open after dark, because as the commission observed, 9 p.m., that's not where dark falls in the winter and the autumn. Part of the application was also around the parking, stated at 1 space per 200 feet of gross area of structure. And per my previous question, again, farm structure, are we talking singular or multiple buildings on one of these lots? Because obviously the parking spaces will increase if we're talking about multiple buildings at 1 space per 200 feet. So I'm interested in seeing the clarity around that. And it's obviously a concern as a resident. Something else has been brought up as Chris Carrera presented early on with the photos of what's generally understood to be a farm stand. One of the things that struck me in the application is there seems to be some conflating around the terms farm structure, farm stand, and farm store. I noted that at one point, quote, farm store may be used for the year-round sale, unquote. Again, generally understood definition of a farm stand as we can go out and look across communities and in what's already in commercialization is that these are seasonal stands for products, whether it is a product of slaughter and meat or from produce, but that these are not year round and certainly not at the size of 6,000 square feet. Because again, we just heard before that certainly farms do have structures up to that size, but we're talking specifically about a farm stand. We also heard as part of that, again, the term farm store. And as Chris has mentioned and others before me, store means commercialization. So again, conflating these notions of agriculture and farmland and zoning and what this is actually becoming, which sounds to be a commercialization within an R1 zoning area. To me, it's simply pushing the definition of a farm stand, begging my credulity, and it sounds like the rest of my neighbors as well. Especially when we start to talk about things like perhaps kitchens, or cooking or providing any kind of value-added products, quote unquote, which may involve preserving some of those on site in that 6,000 square foot facility. Again, as Chris mentioned, we're approaching the size of a Chili's restaurant at that size. So again, just a couple of things just about impact. Again, I've lived in this neighborhood for nearly 48 years. I was born in Bridgeport, and I was brought home to Shelton to this street in Village Drive. And I can tell you that not only the residents who've been here for as long or longer as I have, plus the individuals who bought property up in Wabuda, we chose these areas because they were zoned for R1, and the surrounding areas, unless they were open land or the Indian Wells State Park, are also R1. As numerous neighbors have noted, we would not have moved here if that farm was there. And we ask that the commission take into consideration the notes from the petition around olfactory, lighting, and noise pollution. That these will be introduced to our neighborhood. It's not something that we selected to be part of. And again, the conflation of farm store, farm stand, farm structure indicates that there is a possibility that this is a broader commercialization on this property than just the preservation of agriculture and farmland. So I just want to conclude. Thank you for the time, for giving me some moments to speak. I am hopeful, per some of the comments earlier, that this public comment period will not be closed until we have the opportunity to hear the clarity around the application. And I do want to go on record that I am opposed to this and have signed the petition. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Rossetti, is there another person? And for the record, Commissioner Tiki had to leave. It was done at approximately 7:48 p.m. Oh, okay. If there's anyone else from the public who's listening in on Zoom that would like to make any comments, please use the raise your hand function so that Mr. Rossetti can identify you and bring you into to make comments. Again, if there's anyone from the public who is participating on Zoom and you would like to make any comments, please use the raise your hand function. Okay, last call for anyone from the public participating on Zoom who would like to make comments. Please use the raise your hand function. Okay, all right. So we are going back to Attorney Bellis at this point. Attorney Bellis, are there any comments that you want to make in response to what you've heard from members of the public this evening?
Yes, I'll keep it brief. It's a long meeting, and I
So
do want to
take as much time as you need.
I understand. I want to thank the people that did come out and speak. I've taken some notes, and I'll go over a few of the items, but I think it was constructive criticism that I don't mind hearing. I think the main purpose and what I heard is, why do we need this text amendment? Well, the overriding concern is that it's very difficult to keep these farms in not only Shelton, but in other communities. There's a lot of pressure for these farmers. The first pressure is that they're basically in our town, they're dying off. We had Rudy Hudak pass away. We had Guy Beardsley. We had Mr. Wells on Old Mill Road, and there's others. And the pressure is to the young people today don't want to be farmers. So that there's a strong pressure to have these farms become residential subdivisions and so forth. So the reason we need this text amendment is try to support the local farmers that are still left in this town to keep these lands as farmland. That's the overriding concern. And it's always nice to say, well, oh yeah, Shelton is so pretty, it has all these farms, but I don't want one next to me where I live, right? Because they smell or there's traffic. But I think it's kind of ironic. I remember Wabuda, his property was all farmland when Toll Brothers made their subdivision. So, I mean, if we drop back 50 years ago, the people standing on either side of Wabuda's farm could be saying, we don't want this residential subdivision here. We like the farm. So there are competing interests and in every single community. And I just think that the farmers are outnumbered by the developers. And unless we give them some kind of incentive or ability to earn a living, we're going to lose these farms. That's the bottom line. I have no problem understanding the residents' concerns when it's next to their property. But if you look at it from a town-wide perspective, there's only so much farmland left, and there's not too many farmers to farm it. So that's what the Connecticut State Agricultural Department is saying, that we have to kind of change the rules a little bit and allow these farmers to do things that are a little differently than they did 50 years ago. And one of the things is these farm stores or agricultural stores. I wasn't trying to be tricky or cute. Let me tell all the residents, there already is in the regulations a definition for a farm stand. So that's not changing. What I am adding is a new regulation, and that regulation is perhaps not perfectly worded, and I'm going to take your criticism and change it to perhaps it should be called an agricultural store, so that there's no confusion, that it has not to do with a barn, it doesn't have anything to do with garages or anything else, but it's simply a structure that would allow the sale of agricultural products made on that farm or on other farms in Shelton. That's the overriding concern of this text amendment. I would like to keep the public hearing open, and I will make the changes that I heard from the public on the hours of operation, with May or dark sky compliant. One of the gentlemen talked about revenues from 50%. I can define that a little better, and the setbacks and the buffer. I've listened to everything you've all said, and I know you are all speaking from your heart and minds in trying to preserve your own properties. But I want you to know that I don't think this is a bad thing. We already have some of these in town already, and they do very well and people enjoy it. So with that, I'm not going to I do want to make one point. You may not be aware that in 2018, Connecticut adopted new regulations that allow people to have kitchens and you can sell directly to the public. So that's something the state legislature has already done. So that's nothing new. I get a little confused with the Chili's restaurant and all this talk of commercial sale of alcohol. I don't know where all this comes from. This is not going to be a restaurant. It's not going to sell alcohol. It's to sell farm products or value-added farm products. It's to try to keep the farms. I heard a lot of the residents say, well, if I knew there was a farm, I wouldn't have moved there. There's a farm there already. It's been a farm. In fact, Mr. Monahan's been farming it. Let me give you a simple example. I heard Mr. Harbinson say, well, the city bought Old Mill Road, which was a 26-acre farm that the Wells own. Well, lo and behold, there's been a lot of pressure from developers, and that sale did not go through, Tom. The city has not purchased Old Mill Road. Just for the reasons I'm talking about, there's a lot of pressure from developers to take these farms and turn them into either subdivisions or whatever other non-farm activity they can make more profit at. So this text amendment is not something that was being done to be sneaky or something to only to have be applied to the Wabuda farm. There are a lot of other farmers in this town that may need this kind of regulation to help keep their farms. I think you all know me. I've been in town for over 40 years or so. And when I came to this town, I was struck by how pretty it was with all the farmland that we had. We can turn it into residential subdivisions and it can become looking like Long Island. I mean, we can do that. That's up to you people. So the purpose of this text amendment, while it is not perfectly drafted, and I take fault for that, the overriding concern is to keep these farms. And I do take to heart the constructive criticism, and I'd like the opportunity to change some of the language so that there's no confusion, to add some setbacks. I think I'm hearing that that's important, perhaps to increase the buffer, and to certainly change some of the wording if you think I was being unclear in what was on these, what the intent was. The intent is always and has always been to have a building that allows the farmer to sell his products or Shelton products, farm agricultural products, so that he can earn some money and keep the rest of the farm a farm. Whether it's Wabuda's or any other one, the owner can always sell to a developer. So we're hoping that with this particular regulation, that it'll allow someone who likes to do farming to keep it a farm. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Bellis. Are there any further questions from the commission for Attorney Bellis? Mr. Panico, how about you?
Not at this time, Madam Chairman, if the commission is going to keep the hearing open.
Okay, well, that's where I'm moving to next. Is there any commissioner who would like to make a motion to continue or close the public hearing?
I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing.
Okay, there's a motion from Commissioner Laskos to continue the public hearing for application 2204. Is there a second?
Ruth, you want it, Ruth? Otherwise, I'll do it. I'll second it. How about that?
Go ahead.
Okay,
You don't get a chance to.
Okay, there's a
Sitting.
second from alternate Commissioner Onofrio. And so on the motion to continue the public hearing made by Commissioner Laskos and seconded by alternate Commissioner Onofrio, Chair will do a roll call. Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos?
Aye.
Commissioner Onofrio?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion has passed 4-0. Okay, so this item will be on the agenda of upcoming meeting for further review, and that meeting would be set by staff and posted on the city's website. Okay, so now we move on to our next agenda item. Yeah.
Posted on the website. And the new materials will be posted on the website.
Any new material will be continued to be posted on the city's website for all of our public hearings. All right, so next on the agenda is opening of the public hearing for application 2203, David Gasel, 5 Huntington Street, and Assessors map 74, lot 21, for special exception in a CA2 zone for drive-through use in support of a retail store. This application was accepted for review on March 8th. Posted on the city's website is the statement of uses and standards, plans, and illustrations. Mr. Rossetti, were any other materials, reports, or correspondence received within the time period? Huh?
Just what's online.
Okay.
I think they're all leaving.
I think they're leaving. All right, so nothing new and just what's already been submitted and posted online. Okay, Mr. Gasel, I see that you're present, so why don't you come up to the podium and identify yourself for the record.
Good afternoon, how you doing? I'm David Gasel. I've resided in Shelton for over 20 years, and I live on 541 Bluefield Road, Shelton, Connecticut. My whole idea with this property is it's a convenience store with a deli and with your convenience around. My whole idea is with the drive-through is full functioning drive-through. I have a 13-car queue. The front of the place, the ATM is getting removed and a window is being placed there. The inside, very few tables, no hand signage or very few neon signage as well. Outside seating limited to 2 or 3 tables. I know you guys changed that. And the inside as well, 2 to 3.
Okay, you know what, I let you speak too soon. I really need to read the legal notice that was in the paper. So this is the opening, so it's important that this get on the record, but Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission, City of Shelton hereby gives notice of a public hearing to be held physically and virtually via Zoom on Wednesday, April 20th, 2022 at 6 p.m. to consider the following: initiation of application 2203, David Gasel at 5 Huntington Street, Assessors map 74, lot 21, for special exception in a CA2 zone for drive-through use in support of a retail store. Said property is generally bounded as follows: northerly by 1 Huntington Street, easterly by Means Brook and 520 Shelton Avenue, southerly by 13 Huntington Street, and westerly by 2 Huntington Street. All supporting material is on file in the Planning and Zoning Office and is available online through the Shelton Planning and Zoning webpage. Anyone wishing to comment or participate will need to do so through the Zoom link by dialing in by phone or attending in person. Written comments must be received by the Planning and Zoning Office a minimum of 24 hours beforehand. If attending via Zoom, members of the public wishing to comment during the public portion will need to raise your hand on the Zoom app, or if attending by phone, to dial *9 after joining the meeting, and the host will allow you to speak. All relevant materials are available through the P&Z section of the city's webpage. Okay, all right, so go ahead and
See you there again.
yeah.
My name is David. I reside in Shelton for over 20 years, and I'm the new owner of 5 Huntington Street Plaza. So my whole intentions with this building is to put a convenience store with a deli and to get all your convenience. I applied for a full drive-through, and hopefully all goes well. I'll be putting in, sorry, I lost my mind.
That's okay, take your time.
2 hours.
Yeah.
So basically, I've followed everything and I've looked over the videos that we last mentioned. The ATM will be removed and put a window there. Signage, no hand signage in the windows at all. Very few limited to neon signage. And that is all, really.
Okay, so this, as you said, this came before us before.
Yes, it has.
In 2021, I believe.
Correct.
And it was denied at that time?
No, it was
withdrawn.
actually 3 yeses and 3 noes.
Oh, that's right. It was a
Correct.
3-3. So it failed to pass.
Exactly.
Okay, so any substantial changes from that particular application?
No, I have not. Actually, with that time, I've actually researched a lot of places across towns and across Connecticut, and I really tried to impose a position of a drive-through as pickup only, but it's actually very, very hard to do because you do have those few customers that come and go where do want to order something. But what I did is I limited my menu to various small menu that's very under 10 items. And majority of the items that are on the menu are easy, take 2 to 3 minutes to make and, you know, give your customer.
So what you're saying, that material that's posted on the website that you provided, is that you feel that by limiting your menu, you're accommodating the delay that would be
Correct.
necessary to make this from scratch.
Correct.
So your plan would be to have the person park somewhere on the
Exactly.
property?
So most of my items that, let's say they do decide to order a sub sandwich, even though no one would want to wait in line for a sub sandwich, you are dedicated 1 to 2 spots for you. Either I would let them know either park and come in, or you know, park in 1 of the 2 spots and I'll have a runner run out and give it to you.
Okay, you just mentioned 2 spots. How many parking spaces?
I have 13 parking spaces,
Okay.
9 on the side and 3.
All right, so you have 13 total spaces.
Correct.
2 would be specifically designated for pickup.
Pickup, correct.
Okay.
Now, moreover, I did say I'm developing an app for this, and I prefer people calling and picking up, you know, where they just come through the drive-through, just pick up and leave, where the food is already ready to go.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
well, that's what you would prefer, you know, there'd
Yeah.
be somebody that,
I do
doesn't
not want
know.
anyone queuing,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to cause the traffic at all.
Mhm.
I don't want to deal with the embarrassment or the, you know, flash or comments, you know, on my business, if there is.
I just, it's just a matter that somebody may not realize that they were gonna be in the area, and then, oh, here's a place that I can grab something, so the calling in ahead of time would just not be an option for them
No, of
that
course.
time, that's all. So,
I do also want to mention that the plaza needs something like this. It's been, I mean, not alone, this property has been dead for 2 years, you know? And I don't know if you guys seen, but it was posted on the Connecticut Post, and there was a lot of great comments on there. You know, I didn't want to print it out and share them. I'm sure you guys seen. And every other comment was that the plaza needed this. And not only that, but Mondays and Sundays, the plaza is really dead. You know, on Mondays, everything is closed in there.
well, if you did want to supply any of that material for formally, you would really have to print it out and submit it. So otherwise it would be
Well,
somewhat
it would just
considered
be
here's.
Facebook posts with
Yeah.
Well, it is Facebook
addresses,
post.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No
on the
addresses
CC
or
post,
anything
actually.
associated with the commenters, so it really wouldn't be admissible.
Yeah, it be somewhat in the hearsay
Yeah.
kind of category, so, okay. Do any commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
Oh, the applicant stated he had queuing for 13 cars. Where does that queuing begin?
Is it queuing for 13 or parking for 13?
No, so around the drive-through, there's 13 cars that can queue.
Oh, there is, okay.
Beginning where?
Beginning. So from the line, that you see of the 4 parking spots in the front, the line is drawn out.
Alex, can you
Enlarge it.
have an idea where he's talking about the line?
It's, I think, to
It's to the
the,
right of the parking, yep, the handicap parking. It starts from there.
So it begins at the end of that parking place?
Yep, correct. It begins right there. And it goes all the way through the drive.
okay. Right now, you do have a covered drive-through.
Correct.
Do you have, intend to keep that?
I do intend to keep it for now, just rather put the money somewhere, inside the building. Put it there. I mean, there's really, it's in pristine condition. It hasn't been, it's not falling apart or anything. So I do believe that I should leave it the way it is. My only intentions is changing the ATM window up front, right there, and putting a window.
And presently that, even keeping the covered area, you have a traffic lane so that someone could pull in to one of those spaces that are marked 9 spaces on the left side of the building.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Has there been any change in like property lines or easements or anything?
No.
Okay.
I do have all easement access.
And where do you plan where do you propose as location for your dumpster?
It's actually pictured. It's shown as their spot.
Okay, in the back right corner.
Yep.
Oh, around the back left corner.
It was
Okay.
already there.
Yeah, okay.
Madam Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Panico.
could the applicant explain the difference on the big site plan between his property line and the pavement lines? They don't seem to stay within his property lines, and I don't know what that implication is.
What line is he talking about?
Mr. Panico, on the bottom left corner is that almost complete circle that are supposed to be bushes or shrubs or something. It says flowers and bushes and mulch bed or on building line. Are you talking about how the parking?
I'm talking
spaces?
about the applicant provided a survey of some sort prepared by a surveyor, and it shows the red lines as the property lines, and it doesn't seem to encompass all of his pavement. It says it's an A2 survey.
Oh, the one that's called zoning location survey.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, mine's in black and white, unfortunately.
And in fact,
So-
if you look at the drawing that's in front of you now on the screen, you can see that there's a triangular area of pavement that extends beyond their property line.
Yeah, it's where the parking spaces extend over. Yeah, that. area
Yeah.
there.
And I'm
Right.
just curious, what's the status of that?
Yeah, do you own that area?
So that was the lease that happened between the bank and the rest of the property.
Mhm.
And that was for the signage onto the right over there. And
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Speak a little louder into the mic. Okay.
Yeah, so that was a lease agreement between the old Bank of America and the rest of the plaza. And after that, I'm grandfathered in, and I don't have a lease for extra parking spaces at all. And other than that, it has not been mentioned.
Well, who owns the property beyond the red line?
That'd be Moss, right?
So I think it's the the Moss family. Right?
Yeah. Jay Moss? MAS? James Mass?
I think that should somehow or other be clarified.
We met with him a few times and with my lawyer as well.
It's kind of critical, because if whoever owns that property, we're going to enforce it and tell you to get your parking off of there, now we've got some difficulties.
Well, if that was the case, right? I do have a 2-lane drive-through, and on the right side.
Have what? I'm sorry, you have what?
There is the drive-through turns into 2 lanes. And on the right side it used to be where the shooter was for the bank. Now there's a little parcel in the middle of that. If that parcel gets removed and the right side is now no longer there, and you only have the window on the left side, there's a lot of room for parking or moving that line to my property line.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. According to the sketch, you've got 52 feet from the corner of your building to that property line. And you have about 30, 35, 36 feet. I just don't know.
Would be literally 2 feet.
Did I understand you to say that those spaces are reserved for people that you're going to bring stuff out to them to pick up, as opposed to customers who want to park, come in?
Only the first two.
Only the first 2.
In that lane on the left side.
The parking on the left, is that for customers who are going to park and come into the building?
Correct.
They have to drive around. Do they have to drive around the building to use them?
No, there's plenty of room.
Well, they're angled backwards if you pull in opposite the drive-through.
Yeah, I think what the applicant is planning, you could correct me if I'm wrong, David, is if they pull up to the, and they order at the order window, they're going to be told at that point whether or not their order will be ready, or if they or they will have to pull in and park in one of the first 2 spaces. So they would bypass going close to the building underneath that open area. They would swing wider out and pull into one of the first 2 parking spots.
Okay.
Okay, so.
But how do the people that are coming into the plaza park in those spots that are angled?
How do they get to the other patient?
Okay.
Do they go against the flow of the arrows? I don't know. You know.
David, that's what Mr. Panico.
So the drive-through.
Wait a minute, needs to have clarified.
Sorry.
Somebody is coming, they don't want to go through your drive-through.
Correct.
They want to just go in.
Correct.
So how can they access those parking spaces on the left when they're angled back?
Without going around the building.
Without going around the building. And that's what he's saying is, then do you have enough room on the right to have a bypass right lane to allow people that just want to park and come in, go around?
Correct.
That's the big.
I think there is plenty of room, even on the left side.
The parking spaces as striped were obviously a one-way circulation pattern.
Yep, for the bank.
Correct.
And now you're saying you really want to use those spaces in a 2-way circulation pattern on that side. Well, I think it needs to be addressed. A couple of other minor comments, but nevertheless should be thought about. We normally do not accept just a chain link fence with slats in it as an enclosure for a dumpster. We prefer to see something that's more solid and consistent with the rest of the building. Chain link fences deteriorate very quickly. Also, in the front of those buildings, you have 3 or 4 spaces that are controlled by bumper blocks. I think something ought to be proposed to correct that. They're just a source of liability.
Are you talking about the picture
Yeah, it shows very dramatically in one of the pictures.
Yeah, it's the one that's a southwest elevation, I think. It shows a white, two cars
Yep.
parked.
Oh,
The
you
white
just-
one.
Right.
Okay, and then there's so it's the car stops that of concern to you, Mr. Bianico?
Yes, why does that, is there a purpose to that distance between the main curb line and where the cars are stopped? Is that to protect that area for some purpose?
That's just the way they were.
Is that for pedestrian access into the building?
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah, the applicant is saying, yes, that's the striped area on an angle in south elevation page is for people who want to park and come in and park on the left side.
Oh, I see. It's the protected walkway for the handicap.
Yeah, and yes, it is.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking when we were talking, was the handicap access.
Yeah, it shows on the landscaping plan.
There's better solutions to it.
Okay.
I don't know. It's,
Okay, well, is there any other info you want to share? Okay, Mr. Pianico had said, and I asked you to wait a minute to respond, was his thing about the material for the dumpster closure.
Correct.
What do you plan on having?
Honestly, I just put a block up there, just, it wasn't really saying.
It's a placeholder?
Yeah, it wasn't really, I wasn't describing on how I'm building it or what I'm building it out of necessarily.
Yep.
But I am full on ready, with whatever the commission wants, as in what type of build they want to see. Before, it was just a garbage there, and I didn't want that.
one more point I think I need to make so it doesn't get forgotten. You're showing a proposed building sign, but the location you're showing that building sign is off of your property.
Which sheet are you looking at, Mr. Pianico?
Well, you can look at the sheet that's right on there now.
Oh, the one that's on the screen?
Yeah, on the front left-hand corner of the site where that planting bed is.
Yep.
Okay, you'll see there's a sign panel shown in there with a line.
Oh, yeah.
that
It's
says
the
building
planting
sign.
bed.
That's actually off of their property.
It's not exactly where the old Bank of Miracle sign was. It's gonna be moved to the right, which is on my property.
So this is the existing building.
And then clarify the property lines. If is it an A2 survey or isn't it an A2 survey?
It is an A2 survey.
It says it's an A2 survey, so we accept it as being accurate. If in fact the red lines are correct and you have pavement for parking and you have a sign that's not on your property, then you ought to make sure you somehow or other get permission from whoever's property it is.
But that should come in as part of the application.
Yes, but I just want to warn them that, that's an issue they have to address.
That's why I did mention signage will be handled after accepting approval and conform with the zoning regulations.
All right, any questions from the commissioners on this particular application?
This is Commissioner Onofrio. Just you referenced earlier, it's a convenience store, and I just want to understand what you mean by convenience. Is it just you're selling the products on your menu, or are there other items related to, when I think convenience store, I think of, aspirin, tape, and other things.
Correct.
So you would include those things?
Correct.
Got it.
So you have a number of other unspecified items that people could go in and buy.
Correct, from milk to prepackaged goods.
So are you equating this with something like when you go into a gas station to pay for your gas?
Exactly. It's more of a Wawa's. Have you ever been to a Wawa's?
Yeah,
No gas.
All right. So that's kind of model that you're
Exactly.
following. Okay.
But Wawa's does not have drive-through.
No, I know that. It's
Fast
the,
food.
in the convenience
Actually,
store
no, some
items.
do.
Hmm.
That's their new plan now is buying drive-throughs.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions from the commission?
This is Commissioner Lascos. On the print that's on the screen now, there's a green dashed line. Is that between the green and the red that form a triangle? Is that the part that's deeded over or grandfathered in that we're talking about? That actually shows that would encompass the sign and those extra parking spaces?
Yeah. Do you have,
That was the
I don't know
actually,
where the front of that green line is.
okay. Do you have documentation as to who specifically owns that property?
it is the Moss.
Okay, but you were saying, referred to in the past, is that is where the customers of the bank were able to
No,
park?
What I mentioned was that was the lease agreement and it mentioned that this is volume 165, page 30.
But do you have that current lease agreement?
I don't, it's part of the deed. No, I have the deed, that's all.
So I wonder if it was deeded as shared parking between the other building next door and the bank.
I doubt it because there's a solid line across the end of those stalls, Ruth. They might use it that way, but that's not the way they were designed.
And you can't forget that only 3 of the parking spots are accessible to the other one because then the building's in the way. So the first 3 are the only ones that could be shared, kind of.
Well, there isn't a barrier.
No, that's what I'm
No,
saying.
it's all flat pavement.
That's all fine.
Yeah.
Commissioner Lascos, the green lines are utility poles.
Oh, okay, those show the location of utility poles.
Correct. Light green, the light green dotted line of the wires. And the circular funky symbol, that's an actual pole. I was trying to show you by looking at this image here. You can see the location of a pole here and the pole in the back and the wires running around the perimeter of the site.
What about the green line to the right side of the building?
So this is going behind the building. The front of the building is over here. This plan is
Turn.
turned
Oh,
a little
got
bit.
it, okay.
And here's that island with the parking spaces being shared, so to speak. And again, here is the proposed sign with that island and the shared spaces located here in that utility pole.
As you can tell, they're shared.
The red line shows the boundaries of the property.
Correct.
Well, I think the applicant has to give us a little bit more documentation as to the parking on the left side. Who specifically has access to that? Was there an agreement executed?
Excuse me, can I step to the back? I'm not really feeling good.
Yeah, go right in. Yeah, we'll take a recess until the applicant comes back into the room. Yeah.
We may have to,
Vacate soon because the heat's off.
yeah, well, let me just double check. James usually has to 8:30 or so.
Yeah.
To go to the next one.
Okay, well, it looks
Yeah.
like this is gonna be continued anyway.
Anyways, yeah.
Apologize, I felt it.
No, that's okay.
I don't know why.
Ms. Rossetti, is the tape running? We went into a recess. Let's just start the tape. Okay, we're back from a quick recess, and we're still talking about application 2203. So I think I left off with, I believe the applicant needs to provide us with more information for this particular application. I'm pretty sure staff is aware of the kinds of things that we're concerned about. So I think in all fairness, it's just best that we continue the public hearing on this particular application. Is there any commissioner that would like to make a motion in that regard?
Commissioner Onofrio will make a motion to continue the public hearing.
Okay, there's a motion from Commissioner Onofrio to continue the public hearing for application 2203. Is there a second?
Commissioner Laskos, I'll second it.
Thank you. So the motion to continue the public hearing made by Commissioner Onofrio, seconded by Commissioner Laskos. I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos?
Aye.
Commissioner, alternate Commissioner Onofrio?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion's passed 4-0. So this will be on the agenda of an upcoming meeting for discussion, and I'm sure staff will be in touch with the applicant to go over some of the items that would be best to be submitted so that we can clarify some of the situation that we came across. Okay, all right, thank you. All right, final item on the agenda are the minutes for approval. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're all set.
Sorry.
Are there any public comments on the,
So the what?
I just have a question. So basically, is there any way I could, like, kind of discuss it with one of you guys, like, you know, like.
Staff.
Staff, like.
Yeah,
can I
that's
come
good
in?
staff.
staff?
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
You have a good
Feel
night.
better.
Have a great day.
You
Thank
too. Mr. Rossetti, were you looking for public comments on this particular application?
Make the announcement if there's anything that we-
Yeah, but we already voted to continue. They can speak it then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there anyone there?
There's one person that's still left, and they did not raise their hand.
Okay,
So I'll just say, if you'd like to comment, please send a letter or continue at the next hearing.
yeah, exactly. So anyone from the public that would like to comment on application 2203 will have the opportunity to do so at the next time that this is on the agenda. Okay, so,
Or
Now-
by submit, or by submitting, right?
or they can submit in writing, making sure that it's in at least 24 hours ahead of time. Final agenda item is approval of the March 23rd minutes. And I had some
Red.
comments that I sent by email.
Yep, I saw them.
Yeah, for in the discussion for the continuation of application 2129. Not sure if all the commissioners saw that email that I sent out this afternoon, but I thought that it would be an easier way of making sure everybody understood the specific comments and just bringing them up at this point in the agenda. Is there anyone that has any comments or corrections for the March 23rd minutes?
I do not.
Okay.
No.
Commissioner Parkins? No. Commissioner Laskos, you're good?
No comments.
Okay, Commissioner Onofrio?
I wasn't at that meeting, Commissioner Harger, so I
Yeah.
did look at your notes though.
Okay, are you going to abstain from the vote?
I will. Yes, thank you.
Okay, then we will not have,
We're not in the quorum to approve minutes, do we?
Right. It's administrative action.
okay, we don't have to, okay, all right, then we
He
can't.
can
go forward.
abstain. That doesn't destroy your quorum.
Okay, very good. Okay, so is there a commissioner who'd like to make
Commissioner Parkins will make a motion to accept the March 23rd meeting minutes
as corrected?
as corrected.
Okay. Is there a second on that motion to approve the minutes?
Commissioner
As-
Laskos, I'll make the second on that motion.
Okay, so Commissioner Laskos. So on the motion made by Commissioner Parkins to approve the minutes with the changes, seconded by Commissioner Laskos. I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Onofrio, you're abstaining.
Abstaining, please. Yep.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. Motion is passed 3-0-1. All right, seeing that there's no other items on the agenda, the chair is going to declare this evening's meeting is adjourned as of 8:38 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.